Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. Governor Fubara invites Speaker Maule Assembly members for crucial meeting. Former Guinean Prime Minister's lawyer insists on his innocence amidst allegations of financial misconduct. Details of these stories and more coming up shortly. News Central at this hour begins in Nigeria's capital Abuja, where the chairman of the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions, Senator Neda Imasuen, has defended the committee's decision to recommend the suspension of Kogi Central Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. In an International Women's Day message made available to News Central, Imasuen clarified that the committee's recommendation was strictly based on Akpoti-Uduaghan's conduct during plenary on February 20th and had no connection to her sexual harassment allegations against Senate President Godswill Akpabio. Senator Imasuen explained that while harassment allegations are serious matters that deserve investigation, the Ethics Committee had no jurisdiction over the claims since they are already before the court. In his words, the sexual allegations in question are outside the jurisdiction of the Ethics Committee as they have been presented to the courts. They say that the committee's recommendations focus solely on misconduct on the Senate floor and violations of rules that govern the institution. He also stressed that the suspension was in line with Senate rules, adding that the decision was not about silencing anyone, but about ensuring accountability and preserving the Senate's integrity. According to him, holding individuals accountable for their conduct within the Senate does not diminish their rights, nor does it silence anyone's voice. Instead, it reinforces the principles of fairness and accountability that apply to all. Senator Imasuen maintained that the Senate's decision was fair while using the opportunity to celebrate Nigerian women, acknowledging their resilience, strength, and vital role in national development. In the meantime, President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, has cautioned critics against making uninformed comments on the affairs of the upper legislative chamber. Akpabio issued the warning when he received a delegation from the Niger Delta Ethics Nationalities Youth Leaders Forum in Abuja. His remarks followed the recent suspension of Kogi Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan for violating Senate rules, a decision that Akpabio emphasized was unanimously supported by lawmakers. Expressing concern over a perceived trend of uninformed commentaries on television and social media, Akpabio urged the public to understand parliamentary rules before engaging in debates. He dismissed the saga as an attempt to undermine his leadership, attributing recent criticisms to political mischief from people who he claimed lacked knowledge of Senate procedures. In the meantime, the political feud between Senate President Godswill Akpabio and Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan of Kogi Central has intensified following her 6-month suspension from the Senate. Akpabio accused Akpoti-Uduaghan of traumatizing others with baseless allegations, while the Kogi lawmaker fired back, insisting that she was not the first to accuse him of sexual harassment and calling for an independent investigation. Tensions between the two lawmakers erupted publicly 2 weeks ago during plenary when Akpoti-Uduaghan rejected a directive to relocate her seat, telling Akpabio that she would not be intimidated. The dispute escalated when she appeared on a live television program the following day, repeating her allegations against the Senate president. Last week, the Senate, acting on a recommendation from its Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions, suspended her for 6 months. The decision has triggered widespread outrage, with rights groups and activists demanding a fair hearing for the embattled senator. Let's also tell you that legislative activities at the Nigerian Senate this week was dominated by the fallout between Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan's altercation with the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, which culminated in her suspension. Now, from protests to the National Assembly to the submission of the Senate Ethics Committee's report, the matter took center stage throughout the week's proceedings. News Central's National Assembly correspondent, Sagir Ibrahim, brings us the details in this piece.
To speak from there. That is the order of the Senate.
Sir, Order 10 on privileges. Order 10 on privileges.
Distinguished Senator Natasha.
Any senator may rise at any time
can the Sergeant Adam
upon a matter of privilege suddenly arising.
The controversy began on February 20th when federal lawmaker Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan engaged in a heated exchange with the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, over a new seating arrangement in the chamber. Her refusal to relocate to her reassigned seat prompted the Senate President to refer the matter to the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions. Days later, the matter spilled outside the chamber as pro-Natasha protesters stormed the National Assembly gate, demanding Akpabio's resignation and an independent investigation into her allegations of sexual harassment.
We call for an independent investigation, and while it is going on, sir, please let the Senate President step aside so that they can allow a proper investigation to be conducted.
Shortly after, pro-Akpabio demonstrators countered with demands for Akpoti-Uduaghan's suspension and an official apology to the Senate.
She just apologized to the Senate. She should submit herself to probe. She must be probed. Nobody is above the law. So going to court will not help matter.
The Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions commenced an inquiry into Akpoti-Uduaghan's conduct on March the 5th, but the Kogi senator failed to appear before the panel, who also rejected her petition on sexual harassment against Akpabio.
The petition she presented today is actually dead on arrival. And I say that because it runs contrary to Order 40, subsection 4.
Despite her absence, the committee proceeded with its findings and submitted its report recommending a 6-month suspension for Akpoti-Uduaghan for violating the Senate rules and bringing the chamber to public disrepute.
Her behavior on the 20th of February 2025 was unethical and unbecoming of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria by refusing to uphold the moral sanctity of the Senate and of the hallowed chamber.
The President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, put the committee's recommendations to a voice vote, which received overwhelming support. However, an amendment moved by Oju Zokalu representing Abia State sought a review of the committee's recommendations, altering the suspension of Akpoti-Uduaghan's legislative aides on the basis that they had done nothing wrong. This allows them to continue receiving their salaries and allowances during the period of her suspension.
It will be wrong to punish aides that have not committed any offense. Their aides will receive their allowances. The aides of Natasha is not Natasha.
Akpabio used the platform of the International Women's Day celebrations in the Senate to reaffirm his commitment to gender equality and pledge to continue advocating for women's rights.
Tinkering with the act to enable women, the Electoral Act, to enable women to have solid say in the parliament, will do so. Condemn all issues of sexual harassment that are not fake. We must tell women not to use tears to look for sentiment when they are making false accusations.
With Akpoti-Uduaghan now suspended for 6 months, observers say the controversy is far from over as public debate continues to unfold. In Abuja for News Central, and Sagir Ibrahim.
To politics, where former PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar has dismissed reports of his defection from the party. There have been claims that he is finalizing plans to join the Social Democratic Party, SDP. But in a statement on Saturday, Atiku's media aide office described the reports as false, insisting that he remains a committed member of the PDP. The statement clarified that Atiku is focused on building a broad coalition to challenge the APC, not abandoning the PDP. It urged the public to disregard what it called an attempt to mislead Nigerians about the ongoing opposition alliance. The statement adds that Atiku remains a key figure in efforts to unite opposition parties ahead of the next election. To discuss this, we're joined by a political analyst, Akim Fakponda. Thank you so much for joining us on the news, Akim. Akim, what do you make of Atiku's denial? Do you think that there's any credibility to the defection rumors?
First of all, the practice of politicians using media aid to talk to Nigerians is so insulting. Why can't he speak with his own mouth so that we know he means what he's saying? So media just hiding under one small media press release to the whole country of Nigeria is so insulting. Atiku is just out to be president and he wants to use all means to be president. So he's shopping around. He's not alone. All of them are shopping around for what will get them something that they want.
Okay. Now, what about the significance of, the coalition that Atiku is pushing? What impact do you think that, this coalition could make or could have on Nigeria's political landscape?
We also remember that towards the 2023 elections, Atiku was just trying to scheme for people who will ride over their back to become president. He's not going to be acting as a Democrat, so that if you have a coalition, some coalition says he's not the better candidate, will he accept? He will not accept, he will defect. So he's on a self-serving mission. He's entitled to it, no doubt, as a citizen, but is it credible? Who is he having coalition with? On what basis? Is it ideological? Is it on the interest of the masses of Nigeria? No. You just want to be anointed by some body of hapless political parties, and they have to be paid. They have to pay them, otherwise they have no business respecting him as president candidate at all.
Defection rumors in Nigeria are quite common, especially in politics. What does this say about party loyalty and also internal stability within the PDP?
PDP is supposed to be the leading opposition party, but rather than face issues, Nigeria is owing 141 trillion naira. The current government devalued the currency, increased the price of petrol. Everybody is suffering. There are jumbo contracts being awarded, no impact on the people. They are not facing that. All they are facing is how to maneuver to upstage Tinubu, who many believe may not be doing a good job anyway. So the political class, they have no ideology, they have no interest of the masses at heart. Quite regrettably.
All right, you did say that, they're just finding ways to maneuver and also upstage Tinubu, and they're not even doing a good job at it. But now that we're looking at the 2027 elections, how does this development, shape Atiku's political future and also the opposition's chances, against the APC, considering that you did say that the PDP is meant to be like the major opposition party, but they're also not doing a good job at that?
Overall, the political class have no interest of us Nigerians at all. They just want us to annoy them every 4 years. APC and Tinubu, they are not doing the best possible. He wants to just occupy Aso Rock so that he can preside over oil blocks. The real issue now is the polity of Nigeria is not in good form. We need to restructure Nigeria. There are so many problems underneath. Look, northern states have declared Sharia. They have declared 1 month holiday. Is that not outright cessation from Nigerian constitution? There's problem in Osun, there's problem in Lagos, there's problem in Rivers. They are not facing this. All they want is for 2027 to come like tomorrow, so that we have to come and queue up, so that we annoy them to become president, and they continue with our life like that. It's just not fair, but the masses of Nigeria need to see through this gerrymandering that is not in our interest. Things have to change. We can't continue this way. Nigeria has to be structured politically, economically, and socially. That's the agenda on the table, not 2027 elections.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for speaking to us on this, Akin.
Thank you very much.
And with that, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll tell you how NAFDAC destroys counterfeit drugs worth 100 billion naira in Ibadan. Details of this and more after the break. Stay with us. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has called on Senate President Godswill Akpabio to immediately reverse the 6-month suspension of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, describing the action as patently unlawful and a violation of her rights to freedom of expression. Akpoti-Uduaghan was suspended last week over allegations of speaking without permission and refusing to take her reassigned seat in the Senate chamber. As part of disciplinary measures, her salary and allowances have been withheld, and she has been barred from identifying herself as a senator. Now, SERAP argues that the suspension violates her constitutionally and internationally protected right to free speech and undermines the political representation of the Kogi Central Senatorial District. The organization is urging the Senate to respect democratic principles and reinstate Akpoti-Uduaghan immediately. Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has invited Speaker Martins Ameule and other members of the Rivers State House of Assembly to a crucial meeting at Government House, Port Harcourt. Now, this makes the first official address from Fubara to Ameule as the Assembly Speaker. The invitation, dated March 7, follows the Governor's acknowledgement of the Supreme Court's judgment and in his March 5th letter. Now, the meeting will cover key issues, including providing a suitable space for the Assembly sittings, addressing outstanding remunerations, presenting the budget, and other critical matters. The lawmakers are scheduled to meet the Governor on Monday, March 10 at 10 a.m. Now, let's head to the courts, where the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, Justice John Oho, has reassigned the case of IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu to a new judge. Kanu's legal team had pushed for this change, opposing the return of the case to Justice Binta Nyako after her recusal. Lead counsel Aloy Jimako confirmed the development, revealing that they received official letters from the Chief Justice of Nigeria and the Chief Judge on Friday. Kanu, convinced of his innocence, expressed gratitude to the CJN for her swift intervention. His legal team says that they are now focused on preparing for his defense, emphasizing the importance of a fair and speedy trial. To discuss this, we're joined by a lawyer and public affairs analyst, Justice Ojieno. Thank you for joining us on the news, Justice.
It's my pleasure.
So, Justice, speak to us on what you feel this reassignment of Kanu's case means for his legal battle and also the IPOB, that's a broader IPOB movement.
Okay, for me, I think that it is a good one. It is something that they have already expressed their happiness about, because we usually say that justice is a three-way street, especially when it is criminal justice, as in this case. Justice as perceived by the defense, justice as perceived by the prosecution, and justice as perceived by the public, the people generally. And it used to be just two, because the defense was very, very disappointed, and they did not They did not hide their disappointment. They came frontally to say that they were not happy about the constitution of the courts, and as headed by Justice Binta Nyako for reasons which they stated. But now I'm very, very happy that at least they have been granted the request of another judge, even though the name of the new judge has not been announced yet. So I'm very happy that at least however it goes, everybody will be to a large extent satisfied that it was actually a neutral judge, a neutral judex, a neutral referee that decided based on the evidence presented before the court. And I hope and pray that at the end of the day, despite the fact that there are options of appeal to the Court of Appeal to the Supreme Court, everybody will still be satisfied that they may not be satisfied. One party may not be satisfied with the eventual decision, but it should not be because they feel that the judge was biased. It should be that because the judge didn't consider one or two things, but not on grounds of serious bias.
Well, Justice, Kanu's legal team has described past proceedings as unfair. How significant is this change in ensuring a fair trial?
Okay, for me, another thing we have to note is that sometimes it's not because of whether a judge was actually fair or not. A lot of times it's the perception of fairness, and perception, especially when it is substantial, the court will usually say that it is sufficient to ground or to be able to allow for a change in the judex. And I feel that since they have been clamoring that for one reason or the other, and some of the allegations that they put on the front burner was because the husband of the Honorable Justice and the son of the Honorable Justice is currently being quizzed by the Nigerian government for potentially some corrupt means, and that may be a heavy burden or blackmail on the judge to decide in favor of the government. I feel that, well, if they actually feel that is the Kanu's people and Kanu himself feel that may weigh on the judge to rule in favor of the government. So since they are saying that to the average person too, if you leave it to the average person, if the average person too thinks in that way, then the court will have no option. The administrative judge and the chief justice in this situation, they have no option than to pull one or two inferences to ensure that, okay, the matter is now presented before another judge, so that if the matter is decided eventually in favor of the government, it will be because of some other excuses, and it will not be because of the bias of the judge. And I must come out to say that, except for high-stake cases like this, it is unusual for a defendant to be the one to say he wants to choose, he or she wants to choose his own judge or the judge that will sit upon his matter. It is because it's high stakes, and we only see it in these political cases or these other high-profile cases. It's not peculiar to him, but I must make the average Nigerian know that 99% of the time it is the judge that the matter is assigned to that actually handle it, and this shouldn't be seen as a regular occurrence.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your take on this, Justice Adeyeye.
My pleasure.
And with that, the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, destroyed counterfeit drugs at the Moniya dump in Akinyele local government area of Oyo State. Now, NAFDAC Director General Prof. Mojisola Adeyeye said that the counterfeit drugs worth 100 billion naira were confiscated from pharmaceutical drug marketers in Idumota Market, Lagos. She noted that the step became necessary to prevent the reintroduction of expired, fake, substandard, and falsified drugs into circulation. Speaking during the burning exercise, Adeyeye said that NAFDAC, as the lead agency and chair of the Federal Task Force on Fake and Counterfeit Drugs and Unwholesome Processed Foods, is firmly committed to ensuring that food, drugs, cosmetics, medical devices, chemicals, packaged water, and drinks are safe, wholesome, and effective for human consumption. The Kano State Police Command says that it has arrested 4 suspected bandits from neighboring Katsina State. Now, speaking to journalists at the command's headquarters in Bompai, Kano, the state's police public relations officer, Haruna Kiawa, says the sum of 1,028,800 naira was recovered from the suspects meant for the purchase of an AK-47 rifle. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu reports.
Despite the reduction in crimes bordering on insecurity in Kano State, several cases relating to terrorism are still recorded. These dangerous weapons and cash were allegedly recovered from 4 suspected terrorists arrested around the Hotoro area of the state. The police says that the terrorists are currently in detention but won't be shown on camera.
Detectives, while on intelligence-led surveillance patrol, led by a Superintendent of Police, Ahmad Muhammad, the officer in charge of Jerkuka Outpost, intercepted 4 suspected bandits along Hotoro bypass near Chula filling station. These suspects were arrested. We have Shukurana Salihu, 25 years old, Rabiu Dahiru, 35 years old, Yao Idris, 30 years old, all from Katsina State, as well as their accomplice, one Mukhtar Sani, 30 years old of Hotoro Quarters, Kano. These suspects were arrested following credible intelligence information that they came to Kano with intent to buy an AK-47 rifle in order to add to their armory.
The public relations officer of the state, Haruna Kiawa, listed items recovered from the suspect, saying that investigations concerning the suspect will be discreet.
We have 3 locally made revolver pistols, 12 live ammunition of different calibers, 4 cartridges, 1 cutlass, 4 knives, 24 pieces of ball bearings called Boris, cash, sum of 1,028,800 naira, as well as these suspected charms. These suspects are currently at the Command's Criminal Investigations Department, State CID here in Bombay, and they are undergoing discreet investigation, after which they will be charged to court for prosecution.
Kiawa commended the public for cooperating with the police and called for more synergy to end insecurity in the state. In Kano for News Central, Emmanuel Bagudu.
The Nigerian Correctional Service has reportedly spent over 3.3 billion naira on feeding awaiting trial inmates in the past 2 months as the number of detainees continues to rise. Now, according to the NCOS, the awaiting trial population stood at 48,932 in early January 2025, but surged to 53,254 by the end of February. This increase, combined with the recent hike in daily feeding allowance of 750 naira to 1,125 naira per inmate, has placed a significant strain on the agency's budget. With an average of 50,000 awaiting trial inmates being fed daily over 60 days at the new rate, the cost has exceeded 3.3 billion naira. Now, in response, Acting Controller General Sylvester Nwakuche has pledged to tackle the backlog of pending trial cases. He also plans to engage key stakeholders, including state chief judges, attorneys general, and the Inspector General of Police, to expedite legal proceedings and reduce the burden on correctional facilities. Now back to Kano State, where the government says that it is currently rehabilitating about 17 road projects within the state capital. The state governor, Abba Kabir Yusuf, during the flag-off ceremony and laying of asphalt on Club Road, Ashton Road and Airport Road in Nasarawa local government area of the state, accused the past administration of failing to prioritize road rehabilitations and construction, saying that despite criticism from their supporters, he will continue to correct mistakes met on ground. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu reports.
Club Road, Nasarawa local government area of Kano State, known for its congestion and heavy gridlock, is currently undergoing expansion and rehabilitation works following series of accidents in the past. The Kano State government says its objective is to reduce the hardship being faced by citizens and to make life easy for residents in the area. The state governor blames the past state administration for abandoning the roads.
So many accidents, so many based on so many potholes, so many rampant accidents. People were dying. Flooding everywhere, especially during rainy season. Congestion at the end of the day when so many business people, so many civil servants were rushing to go back home. Now that we are here to correct the wrongs, they become enemies. They started criticizing. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin, we are not deterred. We remain resolute and we will continue to do what is good for the people of Kano State. On this note, as I said, this is just one out of 17 mega road rehabilitation projects within the metropolis.
The project was greeted by widespread jubilation by residents who say life will be a lot easier for them.
You can see the governor is really doing great thing, and we can see how important the road is. It makes this place to be free. This place will be congested before, but now, by the time this road is commissioned, it will ease easy movement and everybody will be happy. So, governor is working, and we're happy to see this new development.
I'm very, very happy and impressed indeed that our governor is working hard to make Kano State very developed and influential state among other states in Nigeria.
The rehabilitation project is expected to be completed in 4 months. In Kano for News Central, Emmanuel Bagudu.
Coming up after the break, shelling kills 7 in Sudan's El Obeid city, retaken by army. We'll tell you more after the break. Away from Nigeria, General Bryce Olugui Nguema, the strongman of Gabon since the 2023 coup, has officially thrown his hat into the ring for the April 2025 presidential election. Now he submitted his candidacy file at the Ministry of the Interior, marking a significant milestone in his bid for the top job. In a statement, General Olugui Nguema expressed his happiness, saying that he is now eligible to engage in politics and occupy the supreme position thanks to a favorable response from the Ministry of National Defense.
Je suis heureux aujourd'hui de vous informer que le ministère de la Défense nationale a répondu favorablement à ma mise à la disponibilité. C'est dire qu'aujourd'hui et depuis le 27 février 2025, je suis apte à faire de la politique et même occuper la fonction suprême par des raisons à créer un parti. Le temps ne nous le permet pas. Mais comme pour les autres, j'irai en indépendant. Je mettrai en place une plateforme que nous allons appeler le mouvement des bâtisseurs. Et au sein de cette plateforme, j'invite les associations, les partis politiques, les syndicats, la jeunesse, l'élite intellectuelle, tous ceux qui m'ont soutenu depuis le début de la transition, de rentrer dans cette plateforme et qu'ensemble on puisse bâtir ce pays et aller de l'avant. Merci, je vous remercie.
The legal team of former Guinean Prime Minister Ibrahima Kassori Fofana has denied all allegations of financial misconduct following his 5-year prison sentence for embezzlement of public funds. Now speaking to journalists, attorney Dina Samphill insisted that evidence exists to prove Fofana's innocence, refuting the charges brought against him. Fofana, who served as Prime Minister from 2018 until the September 2021 military coup, has been incarcerated since April 2022. He was convicted by Guinea's Special Court for Financial Crimes, a body set up by the ruling military government to investigate corruption cases. In addition to his sentence, Judge Lansana Suma ruled that Fofana must pay a fine of 2 million Guinean francs and 18 billion Guinean francs in damages and interest.
Alors, cette intervention doit être considérée comme la réplique à celle qu'a jugé nécessaire de faire Monsieur le procureur spécial auprès de la CRIEF, qui, aussitôt après le prononcé de la décision, a estimé faire une sortie dans la presse pour commenter cette décision. J'ai retenu personnellement qu'il a regretté le fait que ce ne soit que 5 ans d'après les termes qui soient prononcés contre notre client. Ce qui me fait penser que si la Guinée disposait du dispositif de la guillotine, Monsieur le procureur spécial n'aurait pas hésité un seul instant à envoyer Monsieur Kassori Fofana à cette machine de destruction vitale. Vous allez constater que la décision qui a été rendue par laquelle Kassori Fofana a été condamné repose essentiellement sur ce qu'il a appelé le constat du refus de Kassori.
Away from that, shelling by Sudan's paramilitary Rapid Support Forces has killed 7 civilians and wounded 23 others in the city of El Obeid on Sunday. Now, the city, retaken by the army after a prolonged RSF siege last month, came under heavy bombardment, including an attack on a public transport bus. This marks the 3rd consecutive day of RSF attacks on the city, which is strategically located at a crossroads linking the capital Khartoum to Darfur. The ongoing conflict between Sudan's army and the RSF, which began in April 2023, has resulted in tens of thousands of deaths, millions displaced, and a severe humanitarian crisis. South Sudan Security Agency has confirmed that the recent wave of high-profile arrests in the capital, Juba, is directly tied to the escalating violence gripping the country. Over the past week, authorities have detained key government officials, including the peace-building minister, oil minister, and the deputy head of the army, all close allies of First Vice President Riek Machar. The arrests have sparked concerns over the fragile peace deal between President Salva Kiir and Machar, longtime rivals whose factions have frequently clashed. Adding to tensions, violent confrontations between Kiir and Machar, aligned forces in Upper Nile State, have further destabilized the situation. International observers, including the UN Commission on Human Rights in South Sudan, have warned that the renewed fighting in the northeast threatens to derail years of peace efforts in the country. Still ahead, Israeli Finance Minister confirms controversial plan to displace Gazans is taking shape. Details in a moment. Join us again. Now, outside the African continent, Israel's Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich says U.S. President Donald Trump's controversial plan to displace Gazans is taking place. Now, the remarks have raised significant concerns about the future of Gaza's population, as the plan reportedly involves large-scale relocations. While details remain unclear, critics argue that it could lead to severe humanitarian consequences for Palestinians. The statement comes amidst ongoing tensions in the region, with many questioning the long-term implications for peace. As the plan develops, international attention is intensifying, with human rights groups calling for transparency and adherence to international law. Former central banker Mark Carney is poised to replace Prime Minister Justin Trudeau as leader of Canada's Liberal Party. Carney, who served as governor of both the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England, is the favored candidate following a vote among 400,000 party members. His main rival is Chrystia Freeland, Trudeau's former deputy prime minister. Whoever wins will face a general election, with the Conservative Party currently holding a slight edge. Carney has garnered broad support, including from Trudeau's cabinet, while Freeland's ties to the current government could pose a challenge. Both candidates have emphasized their readiness to defend Canada against U.S. President Donald Trump's threat. And now we move to China, where its military has issued a strong warning to Taiwan, vowing to tighten its grip on the island if separatist movements escalate. Speaking at the country's largest annual political gathering, the Two Sessions, Army spokesman Wu Xiang warned that the more Taiwan independence advocates push for separation, the greater the pressure will become, with what he described as a sharper sword hanging over their heads. The statement underscores Beijing's growing concerns over Taiwan's sovereignty and its firm stance that the island remains part of China's territory. At the same session, China also announced a 7.2% increase in its defense budget for 2025, signaling its continued military expansion and modernization. Beijing has repeatedly asserted that it has not ruled out the use of force to bring Taiwan under its control as tensions in the region continue to rise.
台独分子闹得越欢，脖子上的绳索就会勒得越紧，头顶上的利剑就会愈加锋利。我们正告民进党当局，悬崖勒马，回头是岸，执迷不悟，死路一条。
Now in sports, Nigeria's para badminton sensation Moniya Bolaji emerged victorious at the 2025 Spanish Para Badminton International, defeating Ukraine's Oksana Kozina 4-1 in the WSSL3 final. Ranked second in the world, Bolaji showcased her dominance throughout the tournament. She breezed through the semi-finals with a commanding 21-12, 21-6 win over India's Niraj, setting the stage for a final triumph. Her outstanding performance in Spain further cements her status as one of the sport's elite athletes. This latest victory adds to a growing list of achievements, reinforcing her position as a strong contender on the international stage and a leading figure in para badminton. Senegal reaffirmed its wrestling dominance by defeating Nigeria 4-1 in the team final to claim gold at the 13th ECOWAS Africa Wrestling Tournament in Abuja. Despite falling short, Nigeria improved from third place in 2023 to finish as runners-up in their debut as tournament hosts. The competition, held from March 6 to 8, 2025, featured 11 nations and marked ECOWAS's 50th anniversary. Benin secured third place with a 5-0 win over Guinea, while former champions Niger and Burkina Faso were absent. In individual events, Nigeria's Ebipate Liembofa and Ebi Bigos won gold, but Senegal dominated heavyweight categories. The champions earned $10,000 each, with Nigeria and Benin receiving $6,000 and $3,000 respectively. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our top stories. We told you that Senate's Ethics Committee Chair defends committee's decision to recommend the suspension of Kogi Central Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. We also told you that Governor Fubara invites Speaker Ameule Assembly members for crucial meeting. Finally, you heard that former Guinean Prime Minister's lawyer insists on his innocence amidst allegations of financial misconduct. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, StarTimes channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Darshan Usman.